I've been reading the Bible. Reading the Bible is like listening to God talk to us. The Bible tells us about different times and different ways that God talks with people. We could call those times a variety of interactions. Interactions. You talk, I talk. You listen, I listen. We talk with each other. Interaction. Like in the Old Testament, at the first, in the beginning, God walked and talked with Adam and Eve. That was a great way to interact with God. The best way, the perfect way. But Adam and Eve sinned, and God removed them from his presence. Sometimes God still talked with people, but we don't hear very much about God walking with people. But the Bible does tell us the name of one man. Let's see. His name was Enoch. And the Bible tells us in the Old Testament about Enoch walking with God. I bet Enoch really loved talking with God while he was walking with God, because he walked with God for 300 years. Yeah, 300 years. What was his name? Enoch. How long did he walk with God? 300 years. Well, did you know that in the Old Testament times, people lived on earth a lot longer than we do now? People on earth live now a while. But I'll tell you about one person in the Old Testament. His name was Methuselah. Methuselah. You like that name? I do. Methuselah lived 969 years. Maybe you think I said 696 years, but I said 969 years. Whoa. Now that is a long time. You can tell your family about it. They'll like to learn about that. Practice. What do you want to tell them? Methuselah lived 969 years. What was his name? Methuselah. How many years? 969. Got it. As time went by, God talked with other people. He talked with Noah. He told Noah all about how to build the ark. And then he told Noah about getting the animals and putting them on the ark. And then he told Noah when it was time for his family to get on the ark. That was important interaction. Sometime later, God talked with Moses, and Moses talked with God. God told Moses about how to lead the people out of Egypt and take them to the promised land, Israel. Israelite people, right? Yes. And God told Moses all about the 10 Commandments. God took 2 stone tablets and with his finger wrote the 10 Commandments so that Moses could have something to carry down, to read to the people and to show them. That was very important information. Very important interacting. Moses and God interacted with each other, talking with each other, for 40 years. That wasn't really as long as some people we know. But it was a good long time anyway. People kept sinning. So God talked to prophets and told them what he wanted the people to hear. That's kind of like a relay interacting. Relay. One person talking, God, to another person, the prophet, who said the same thing to the people. So it's the same thing that God would have said to the people, but there was a person in the middle. It relayed from one to another to another. And God told some men how to be priests. He chose them and said, you will be a priest and this will be your job. And their job was intercessory interaction. So in this case, it was the people talking to the priest and the priest talking to God. Just like a relay, but intercessory. A group of people, another person, and God. Did it that way. Oh, and remember that God told men what to write when they were writing the Old Testament. So we see that God talked with different people in different ways. In the New Testament, Jesus, who is God, came to earth to live as a man and talked to people. After Jesus had grown up and he had started his ministry, what his ministry was taking 12 disciples with him and walking all around Israel, talking with people, telling them, explaining who he was, who God the Father was, about God's plan. That was interacting. After 3 years of doing that, Jesus was crucified. He was nailed to a cross to die. 3 days later, he rose again. Remember, he came back to life. Then Jesus spent 40 days talking with people. He wanted to show them that he was alive again and telling them things about God's eternal kingdom. After 40 days of talking, the disciples and Jesus met on the Mount of Olives to talk. Jesus had told them that they would be needing to stay in Jerusalem and wait for the promise that God the Father promised, and Jesus had been telling them about that. Jesus explained that just like John the Baptist had baptized with water, you remember him, John the Baptist? Remember, he told people about the Messiah before people knew who Jesus was or who the Messiah was. The people listened to John, and the people who believed what John said about Jesus the Messiah would come down to be with John in the water, and he would baptize them. He would lower them down under the water so they were all covered with water, and then lift them back up. That was baptizing with water. So when Jesus was talking to the disciples on the Mount of Olives, he said, just like those people were baptized with water, the disciples would be baptized with the Holy Spirit in a few days. Well, the disciples didn't understand that. So they talked about what they were thinking of. They were thinking about their lives with the Roman rule. Remember how they had wanted Jesus to save them from being treated really poorly by the Romans? They wanted Jesus to be their king and to let the Jewish people live the way that they wanted to live. So now that Jesus was alive again and talking with them, the disciples thought, okay, maybe it's time for Jesus to take over, to be our king, and to give us a good life. So they asked Jesus, will you at this time give the kingdom authority back to Israel? Like take it away from the Romans? Jesus answered them, but not the way they wanted. He said, that is not something for you to know. Only God the Father has control of that. Then Jesus talked more about what would happen to them and about the Holy Spirit. He said, you will receive power after the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and then you will be witnesses in Jerusalem and everywhere. What are witnesses? They are people who saw something, and so they tell other people who didn't see that thing. They are witnessing to what they saw, telling what they saw. What had the disciples witnessed? What had they seen? Oh, they had seen Jesus perform lots of miracles. They had seen Jesus be crucified on the cross, be killed. And they had seen Jesus after he was alive again. Jesus said to the disciples, "Go into all the world and preach, and I will be with you the whole time until the end of the world." But after he said that, "I will be with you for the whole time," he left. He left them. I thought he said he would be with them. And now when I say that he left them, I mean he really left them. He left like you've never seen anybody leave. He started ascending. Ascending. Put your hand like this and then copy with your hand what my hand does, and we'll show ascending. That's it, ascending. He started raising right up. The disciples watched him go up and up and up until he was in the clouds and he disappeared. Okay, this disciple still kept standing there and looking up. Let's do that. Okay, I'll show you what to do. I think this is probably what they looked like. Open your mouth because you're shocked. And squint a little because maybe that'll help you see a little bit farther. And put your hand like over your forehead because that still sometimes helps in case the sun's in your eyes, and then you can look a little bit farther, and tip your head way up and look way up there. Maybe that's what they were doing. Okay, you can stop looking up and you can stop squinting, put your hand down and close your mouth. There you go. You know, for the disciples, life with Jesus was just one surprise after another. The disciples had seen him do so many things that people just cannot do. And now this one, not only did he just do something that people can't do right in front of them, but also he was gone. And it was just the disciples. Put your hands out and say, "What just happened?" Shrug like this and say, "What do we do now?" So that's when the two angels suddenly appeared. Now, nudge the person next to you and point to the angel. I mean, if an angel appeared here, wouldn't you be pointing? Yeah, so let's do that. Like, angels, look. If you don't have somebody next to you, pretend that you do, like I'm pretending. I don't have anybody here. Angels. The angels said to the disciples, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up into heaven? This same Jesus, who was taken from you up into heaven, will return just like you saw him go." Oh, that's like the angels telling Mary Magdalene and her friends, "Why are you looking for Jesus here in the tomb? He's not here. He's gone out. You and the disciples will see him soon." That's like they were saying here to the disciples. So the disciples stopped staring, and they probably closed their mouths and stopped squinting. And they went back to Jerusalem like Jesus had told them to. And they stayed in an upstairs room with about 100 other disciples, people who had loved Jesus and believed Jesus. And they were all waiting for that promise from God. They stayed there and they prayed together, waiting. And then something else very surprising happened. We'll talk about that next week.